the dawn of a new day, a new season, and a new car evokes dreams of glory. The endless fire, banked during the off-season, is renewed, but the challenge is the same. And the familiar tools provide some comfort during that endless quest for victory. In his book, author Robert Daly calls it the cruel sport. I call it America's most exciting sport, where its winners are legendary and today's stars are charismatic heroes. This month, all roads lead to Florida, for it's the annual pilgrimage to this cathedral of speed. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris Economaki here for the biggest sporting event in the southeastern United States. Tomorrow's Daytona 500 has been sold out since last March, and car-conscious America has filled every hotel and motel room for miles around. So what is the allure? For one, stock car racing is a phenomenon, born and bred in these United States. A sport where a driver may be known as King Richard, who keeps coming back due to a deep-down yearning and burning for another win to his car and his fans, long after athletes in other sport would be retired. And it's a sport where women idolize the stars and the men root for the cars, the nameplate of which may be the same as the one in his driveway. Tomorrow's Daytona 500 is the Super Bowl of stock car racing. And the twin 125's you're about to see are the playoffs. Now, let's go to Ken Squire, who called tomorrow's Daytona 500 on CBS.
Well, thank you, Chris. For just a moment, let's talk about newsmakers here. And if there is one newsmaker for sure, it's the man in black. Number 3, Dale Earnhardt. He swept up all the winnings there are around this place, except the 500. Lost a couple of them when he ran out of gas. Last year, of course, had that tire cut down in turn 4 on the final lap. Along press row, everybody's saying he is the man to beat. He's looked invincible thus far this week. And to my colleague, David Hobbs, who's your newsmaker out here?
Well, there's no doubt about it that Dale Earnhardt has been dominant this week, except in one key aspect, because when all's said and done, Davey Allison in his Ford is on pole position for tomorrow's Daytona 500. It just so happens that neither of these guys have matched up. Allison wasn't in last week's Busch Clash, so dominated by Earnhardt, and they are in different heats of the upcoming 125s you're about to see. Only time in tomorrow's Daytona 500 will tell who is going to be the winner out of these two.
Now, there's one other major story here for sure this year. The King is back. No, make no mistake about that. And with more on the story, here's Ned Jarrett.
And, of course, Ken, the recognized king in stock car racing is none other than Richard Petty, 7-time winner of the Daytona 500. Richard, you're looking like the Richard Petty of old here.
Well, Ned, we've had some good practice laps down here. We qualified pretty good, I think 14th, something like that. And our practice and stuff's been good. We've been doing some drafting. Of course, things be working good, so we're looking forward to getting started.
How about Dale Earnhardt? Everybody's talking about how good he is. You got anything for him?
Well, I don't know about Dale. I watched him in the Busch Clash and watched him doing some practicing and stuff. And he's not fast enough to probably run off and leave anybody, but he's plenty fast enough to lead. So he's going to be really, really tough.
Ken, I believe this man at 53 years old is still capable of winning the Daytona 500. It could come tomorrow.
Well, he really showed his stuff in the first 125-mile qualifier. If you don't believe it, just stay with us as we're getting ready to show you the twin 125-mile qualifiers here at Daytona. They were dandies. They're coming up after these messages.
The Gatorade Twin 125's is sponsored by Ford and your Ford dealer, where Leadership Month means a great time to buy. Gatorade Thirst Quencher, Gatorade for that deep down body thirst. Goodyear Eagle Radios, the best-selling performance radios in the world. And by Bud Light, everything else is just a light.
On time here at Daytona, several showers pelting the 2.5-mile high-banked oval. But about an hour ago, we got some blue sky. They've been drying out the track, and we're just about to a green flag condition for the first of the twin 125-mile qualifying races. And a crowd that looks to be over 50,000 sought shelter. They're back in their seats ready to go racing. So are we, and let's meet the pole sitter right now, standing by with Mike Joy.
Davey Allison, 9 different pole winners for the 500 have won their qualifying race. What are the chances of you being the 10th one today?
Well, Mike, the Texaco Haviland Thunderbird's been running real good in practice. Of course, we qualified good last Saturday, but I'm real happy with the way the car's driving, and we're just anxious to get this race underway.
No gas gauge on this dash. Can you go the distance on one tank?
Yeah, we can go the distance, and we're going to top off. They want us to dry the track off, and then we're going to come in and top off, and we'll go all the way.
Davey Allison on the pole. The strategy, though, is a bit different further back in the pack. Let's join Dave Despain.
Way back here in 14th starting spot, we find Jeff Bodine. He's a former Daytona 500 winner and the winner of this race last year without stopping for fuel. I want to know what you're doing so far toward the back here anyway.
First of all, I'd like to say hi to all the girls and the guys over in Saudi Arabia. We appreciate what you're doing. This is strategy. The track is green. We knew it was going to rain. No rubber on the track. By the time I get to the corner, these guys will lay down some rubber. My tires won't be wore out. We'll be in good shape for the rest of the race.
If you believe they planned this way, we could make you a good deal on this Ford Thunderbird. Jeff Bodine coming from 14th spot. Remember, he has to finish 15th or better to be assured a starting spot in the Daytona 500. Now let's check the starting lineup with Ken Squire.
The starting order for the first 50-lap, 125-mile qualifying race. On the pole at 195.9 miles per hour, the Ford of Davey Allison. And alongside is Harry Gant in his Oldsmobile. Row 2 is the Virginia row, Rick Mast and Ricky Rudd there. Going to row number 3, it's Alan Kowicki in his Ford out of Wisconsin and the 85-87 champion Bill Elliott. For row 4, making his 31st entry into the 500, it's Richard Petty and Dale Jarrett. Row number 5 is Hut Strickland from Alabama and Michael Waltrip from Kentucky. Row 6 is the defending Daytona 500-mile champion Derek Koch and Mickey Gibbs. Row 7 from Pennsylvania, Jimmy Spencer and the 86 Daytona 500 winner Jeff Bodine. Row number 8, that's Jim Sauter and Phil Barkdahl. Row 9 is an all-rookie row. The ex-sprint car champion Sammy Swindell from Tennessee and Ted Musgrave from Wisconsin. In row number 10, it's Eddie Biersquale from Texas and Dorsey Schrader's here out of Missouri. Row 11, Rich Bickle from Wisconsin and rookie Dave Mader. In row 12, Jimmy Horton from New Jersey and Bobby Hillens back in car number 27, starting on the outside of that row. The 13th row is Greg Sachs from New York and Mark Stahl of San Diego, California. Row 14 harbors Brian Ross of Ballston Spa, New York, and Del McCoward of Savannah, Georgia. And rounding out the field, 29th position from Augusta, Georgia, it's Phil Duffy.
Ken, as we prepare for the start of this first 125-mile qualifying race, we'll need to keep an eye on the grass on the inside of the racetrack in case the car spins out down there because of all the rain. That is very wet. A car will have no traction there. In fact, in past years, we have seen in a wet condition cars actually dig into the mud and flip over.
The other thing, of course, when they stay on the track, they're going to have to be very careful coming to pit lane because, as you can see, that is the only place on the track that is still wet. And we are expecting some of these guys to have to come into the pits because of the extended running they've done under caution.
Additional risky business for 7 Fords, 8 Oldsmobiles, 7 Chevrolets, 5 Pontiacs, and 2 Buicks coming to the line, ready to take green. Pace car coming in. 125-mile qualifying races about to explode with Davey Allison and Harry Gant locked up in the front row. Chevy versus Ford, and on the break, it's the Ford of Davey Allison jumping out in front.
Gant there seemed to be just bogged down just a little bit on that start. Davey Allison made a tremendous run there to the line.
And on the outside, you saw Ricky Rudd making his run while Rick Mast drove the number 1 down to the inside. Now Gant comes back low in car number 33. Back straight away from Davey Allison's car, a view of those challenging him for the lead.
look at Richard Petty making the move in car number 43, going by again.
Up to fourth. And from his in-car camera, here he is closing on Rudd. Richard making a run early in the going.
Making a good run now. These guys are going to be just a little bit cautious on these opening laps because the track has been extremely wet and will be just a little bit green to what they were used to yesterday afternoon.
First lap under green has Davey Allison out in front. Rick Masterson second, Ricky Rudd in third. Petty's in fourth, Harry Gant in fifth. Dale Jarrett up to sixth, Bill Elliott running seventh.
Petty now beginning to pick up on those front three. I had a feeling he would be strong in this race, Ken. We'll just see how he can do. Now Harry Gant drafting up on the back bumper of Richard Petty.
Trying to close in on Ricky Rudd as Harry Gant stays right there behind him. Gant in that fifth position, Petty in fourth. And there's your field, screaming through turns 3 and 4 off the 31-degree banking. Down into the tri-oval at better than 190 miles per hour. Allison stays on the point. Rick Mast out of Rockbridge, Bass, Virginia, car number 1. That Oldsmobile staying right there in second spot.
Remember a few years ago when 2 years ago when he ran so strong in the Daytona 500 as a rookie, led that race for quite a while. He knows how to get around here.
Lined up 1, 2, 3 in the back straightaway, and Petty just looking on from fourth position. There he is. There's Jimmy Spencer, and he is closed up from 13th to 8th in 2 green flag laps. Spencer being challenged on the outside by number 24, Mickey Gibbs. Wild racing up there in turn number 4, Ned. Scary stuff.
Mickey Gibbs making a bold move on the outside of Jimmy Spencer, a brand new team Mickey Gibbs driving for this year, headed up by Barry Dobson, a veteran crew chief. And his Pontiac running fast.
Made the pass look pretty good. Meanwhile, stacked right back in the middle of the pack is still Jeff Bodine, who is going to want to improve his starting position to make sure that he gets in the 500, one of Junior Johnson's cars. That would be an upset if he didn't make it.
Alan Kowicki pulled out to make a pass, and it cost him a couple of positions. Kowicki in the Army car, number 7, and Bill Elliott had pulled out to make a pass, and it cost him a few positions.
Hut Strickland's number 12, the Bobby Allison car, moving up through in that little confrontation.
Alan Kulwicki there to see that one car out on the bottom of the picture there, still alongside, completely left out in the cold there. Still staying down there, not dropping back in the line.
I'm not sure he's had an opening, Davey, that he could get back in the line, and it's cost him.
And it's the problem there. You've got to rely on these chaps to let you back in line.
Ford, Oldsmobile, Chevrolet, Pontiac, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this first 125-mile qualifying race. Davey Allison staying up on the point. Remember a couple of years back, that incredible Daytona 500 when father and son, Bobby Allison first, Davey Allison second, drove across the finish line bumper to bumper.
Now his qualifying speed was about 45.9 seconds. Let's see what he does here in competition. A little slower. Pretty good train back there, though.
A thought from Chris Economaki.
And Alan Kowicki, driving under the Army colors, is not in the top 14. In fact, he's in the second echelon, where that group seems to be falling behind the leading runners.
You saw Mark Stahls, number 82, pull onto pit road under green.
Now, another way they can get in the Daytona 500 is by their qualifying speed. Now, I think Alan Kowicki's qualifying speed was good enough that it would put him in the field in case he didn't finish in the top 14.
Man on the charge, Mickey Gibbs, the number 24, is pulled into 6th position. You saw Dale Jarrett slipping back to 7th. Spencer is in 8th, and Bill Elliott now lies 9th.
Dale Jarrett and Jimmy Spencer. Dale Jarrett there and Jimmy Spencer across the start-finish line here. Dale just slipping back into the line there. And then how do you feel about that?
Well, I was glad to see him get back in line. Otherwise, he'd be back there with Alan Kowicki.
Certainly would. Michael Waltrip left out in the cold now on the back straight as they go into turn 3.
Here you see Jimmy Spencer's number 98 fading up on the outside of Dale Jarrett in the 21 car in a battle for 7th position. Leader continues to be Davey Allison first, and right there Rick Mast very smooth driver. And there's the battle for 15. Last year's Daytona 500-mile champion, Derek Cope. Spanaway Washington closes in on Jimmy Sauter. Right in front of them, Hut Strickland. Cope now into 14th, finds himself a qualifying spot. Greg Sachs just outside. Davey Allison continuing to set the pace, set the tempo in the first 50-lap, 125-mile qualifying race. Riding with Davey right there. Working methodically, just gingerly taking his car around what has to be a very difficult track, a green track. Poured on it today. No rubber to work with out here. Looking back from Davey Allison at Rick Mast, closing in on him for the lead.
You can see Davey Allison keep on looking in his mirror there, just giving it a little bit of an eyeful just to make sure what's happening. And they're coming up now on a lapped car, so that might open things up a little bit.
Mike Joy.
Ken, last year, Jeff Bodine won this race without making a stop for fuel, so most of the top teams figured they could go the distance. But the extra laps of caution to dry the track, and the teams figure one caution lap is worth one green flag lap when it comes to counting fuel mileage, may change their plans. But so far, all the upfront runners, including 7-time Daytona 500 champ Richard Petty, are planning to go the distance without stopping. Let's go up pit road to Dave Despain.
And here the issue is tires. This 125-miler will be the best test this week of the mileage of these radial tires. They're perfect viewing stands for the race, but more importantly, these are long-wearing tires, longer than we've ever seen at Daytona. They were tried here in '88. They did not work, had to be withdrawn. The carcass of the tire has radial plies. They run this way rather than at angles underneath the tread rubber. How far will they run? That's the question that's going to be answered here this weekend. Some people feel that they can run the entire Daytona 500 on one set of left side tires. Let's go back to Ken Squire.
8 cars running in that lead draft. Here's the 82 slowing down on the inside, and Bill Elliott's having some trouble. There's 82 Stahl having a bit of problems, and here's 43 Petty trying for third spot. He has Rudd pinned on the outside. He comes with Harry Gant to the bottom of the track in the trioval. In the 18 degrees, Petty's there. He's up to third. Gant comes with him. The King is coming back. Stay tuned. Endings after 23 laps with Allison out in front. Rick Mast in second spot. Richard Petty third. Harry Gant is in fourth. And Ricky Rudd holds the 5th position.
The King, Richard Petty, following Rick Mast and Davey Allison. Down the back straight. Lowering sun this afternoon. You can see the sun really shining now. Unlike it was just a few hours ago. We had tremendous rain here this afternoon. And I personally didn't think it would dry out. But boy, it has really dried out well.
Yeah, the track has gotten in great shape.
Making good ground there on Rick Mast, but Rick Mast seems to be able to run pretty low there, Ned.
Yes, he's staying right down on the inside of the racetrack.
That gives you an idea of just how strong this sun is, too. As the day progresses here, the sun gets very, very low here. And that hose over Richard Petty's shoulder, now he wears the full-face helmet. Richard Petty has a problem with carbon monoxide, and he has a fresh air intake to try and give him a permanent supply of fresh air inside that full-face helmet.
Yeah, he has a filter on there that'll filter out the carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
Now he's moving in on Mast. Now those front 5 cars have totally driven away from the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th place cars.
Here's number 24. That's Mickey Gibbs. He had been running in 7th. He pits for 13 seconds and comes back out again.
Well, that could be a costly pit stop for him, Ken, at least as far as finishing in the top 14. Now, he's getting out in front of the leaders, but will he get his speed up before they come by? He still is in the lead lap. But as we watch Davey Allison, you can see he was on the left side of your screen there. Davey Allison bearing down on him, and Allison has his speed up, so they will pass him down the backstretch.
He came in slowly. They're lapping him right now.
As those front 5 streak down the back straight, Hut Strickland has somehow broken away from his pursuing group and is running a very lonely 6th position at the moment.
Yeah, Hut has a very fast race car.
Mike Joy.
Ken, Derek Cope's got a tough decision to make. You know, on the highway, when your car gets a wheel out of balance, you might lose one of these little weights on the tire. That's probably what's happened to Derek, so he's bumping and thumping around out there. But as long as he's running 14th and in a qualified spot, crew chief Buddy Parrott can't afford to bring him in. So Cope's just got to ride and rattle it out.
Vibrations in racing cars are one of those things that I personally never, ever liked at all, because you never, you know, you think it's a wheel weight off, but I mean, it could be something else. It could be something serious.
Yeah, you really don't know what it is.
A thought from Chris Economac.
Well, high on my perch here, overlooking the pits, I can tell you it's pretty windy out here today. The flags are standing straight out, and the wind is pushing them right down the backstretch. It's directly on the rear bumper. And looking at the in-car shot of Petty, I see he's jiggling that wheel back and forth. Perhaps Ned can tell us if the wind is making him do that.
Yes, the wind will certainly make you do that, because it'll move the race car around on the track. And in fact, you're steering all the time. Here's Alan Kowicki in the Army car, number 7. Alan just not running as good here as he had hoped to today.
He's running in 13th position. 14th is Cope, and on the bubble is Barkdahl in the number 73 car. Phil Barkdahl is in the 73 on the bubble in 15th. Just behind him is Derek Cope.
Kulwicki, probably a victim of circumstance at the moment, one of the strongest runners in Winston Cup racing, and he's having an awful job finding a proper sponsor for the 1991 season, which is pretty unusual.
Well, you were talking about David, the 12 car, Hut Strickland, that broke away, and he has run down the lead pack. We'll see him. There he is, coming into the picture. He was a good second and a half behind the leaders, and he has run them down by himself without the aid of the draft of another car.
Just in 3 laps, he has come from nowhere. You're right. He broke away from the other group and then got right in with the lead group. Dave Despain's got some stuff for us down in the pits. Dave?
We're with Richard Jackson. His car is sandwiched between some famous names. You got Davey Allison in front, Richard Petty right behind you. First question, can you make it on fuel?
Yes, we can make it all the way on fuel. That won't be any problem.
Second question, can Rick Mast get around Davey Allison and win this race?
That's going to be tough. Davey's running awful strong today.
Want to make odds?
I think it's 50-50 right now. We're going to hang in there and make a run on him. We're going to wait. We're going to try to draft to the end of the race, because making on fuel depends on drafting a little bit.
So there's the strategy. Wait till late and make the move. Back to Ken Squire.
Interesting situation here. That was Richard Jackson, and he has the car number 1. His brother Leo Jackson has the car number 33. And I understand they keep secrets. They don't share too much between those 2 outfits.
Well, they're brothers, and they're both sponsored by the same company. They're both Oldsmobiles, but they also compete against each other.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that's the South, isn't it? Brother against brother. Well,
now here comes Petty. Petty pulling up on the inside, trying to make a move for second spot. Here's Richard rolling down low. Crowd is on its feet, cheering as Petty makes his move. Mast stays with him.
Now we'll see how strong that car of Richards is. The STP Pontiac down low on the banking and pulls it off. I think he's going to make it.
And look how far Davey Allison was able to pull ahead. As long as they run side by side, Davey, that is really working to Davey Allison's advantage, because he'll just pull away from him. He's broken the draft.
Mast doesn't want to give it up. He stays right there, inches back in front of Richard Petty. Petty's last win, 1984, right here at Daytona, in the Firecracker, the Pepsi 400. We'll be back to see if he can win this one in a moment, after a message and a word from your local stations. Laps recorded. The man on the move is Hut Strickland. He has just moved around. Rick Mast taken over in 3rd, and he's closing on Allison and Petty. He's got a lot of running to do and not much time to get there.
Boy, what an incredible effort, though. Just 5 or 6 laps ago, he was all on his own back in like 8th place.
Hut Strickland looking to make himself some history today. Davey Allison stays just there, 12 car lengths in front of Petty. Mike Joy in Richard Petty's pit.
Ken, while Richard's cousin Dale Inman, the crew chief, is up on the roof as spotter, Bobby Loomis runs the pit. Bobby, what's Richard saying? Can he deal with Davey Allison?
Well, right now we're kind of playing cat and mouse. The interval's been staying about the same. We'll just have to wait and see what we can do.
He and some 80,000 of the rest of us, Ken.
Indeed they are. Back straight away. leader Allison, second Petty, and here's Petty right down to the bottom.
Now as they turn around this 2 and 3 at this time of day, and it's going to get worse and worse, that sun hits these cars right in the windshield, and it's very, very difficult at this time of day.
And the worst spot at this point is coming off of turn 4. As they go into turn 1, they get a little bit of shade going into that turn. You can see how dark it is as they go into that turn. Those banks are shielding the sun from the racetrack.
That interval from second to third has gone from 1 and 4/10 seconds to 9/10 of a second. There are your two leaders. But just as much a story as these two gentlemen is the guy back there in third spot, Hut Strickland in car number 12, who keeps edging ever closer to the two leaders. Into turn 3. And there you see the interval.
Hut Strickland is definitely getting their draft. Even though he's that far back, it'll just be starting to help him a little bit. So if he just hangs right in between them, he could maybe make that gap up.
Well, he has 10 laps to do it in.
10-lap sprint, 25 miles to decide the first of the 125-mile qualifying races here at Daytona for the 33rd annual Great American Race. Davey Allison is on the point. Richard Petty has driven his way from 7th up into 2nd position. But Hut Strickland's been the story from 9th. He now lies 3rd, and he's closing on the two leaders. A relative unknown, Strickland, driving for Bobby Allison, has plowed that Buick all by itself up here to become a challenger. And there you see him just behind Richard Petty as you look from Davey Allison's car at over 193 miles an hour.
Well, we're all waiting for Richard Petty to win this race, but Hut Strickland could win it.
Yes, he could. He has caught them now.
He's got a double draft to help him there, and he could do one of those last lap bonsai efforts using the draft from both of those lead cars.
Meanwhile, there's Spencer back there with Hut Strickland as they work each other over a little. The 18 car is the car of Greg Sachs, running 14th. Jimmy Spencer is in 15th, making the field. Here comes the 12 to the inside. Strickland moving for second place.
Hey, that looks pretty impressive.
He's got power.
Yes, he has. The car was handling great. He just moved up on the inside of the King and moved right around him. That allowed Davey Allison to pull away a little bit.
And he's got the handle that we have only seen thus far on CBS in the Busch Clash last Sunday to get right down there on the line and make that thing stick. The new Alabama gang running first and second. Davey Allison on the point. And fellow Alabama Hut Strickland running second.
Now, he is married to Davey Allison's first cousin.
It's a family affair here in the first 125-miler.
His wife, Pam, is the daughter of Donnie Allison, who is the brother of Bobby Allison, who is the father of Davey Allison. Got that?
Family feud in the back straightaway at Daytona. Strickland closing. Richard Petty has this view of the fight.
That car of Hut Strickland's looks unbelievably strong. Tries to go down the inside of Davey Allison. Second thoughts about it?
How about mileage here? Ford better than Buick?
I don't know. Really, Hut has had to really drive hard and keep that car wide open all the way to come from where he was to get up here. So certainly he has burned as much fuel as Davey Allison. I think it'll depend a great deal on the jetting and the carburetor, which one is able to run fast with leaner jets in the carburetor. So who knows?
What did we have? 5 laps before they put them under green?
Yeah, so they used up some gas there, not nearly as much under caution laps, but I think it'll be close.
But they both spent a lot of time on their own in the race. Davey, of course, has led all the time, so he hasn't had anybody to help him much. And Strickland has pulled himself up through the field.
About 137 miles for these leaders on a tank of gas. That's going to get close as we get down to checker time. And somebody's going to check out on this one, and it could be very dramatic. Davey Allison stays up in front.
I would say that they're on pins and needles, and those guys in the pits, I'm sure they're standing there with their fingers crossed, saying a prayer, please make it to the end.
I wonder what they're telling Richard Petty right now. Dale Inman and company, I'm sure, are communicating with him about the situation on fuel. And I think Ned Jarrett really called it that Strickland has had to really run hard all day, as has Allison from the point. Here's Dave Despain.
It's a reprise of mixed emotions for Judy Allison. A few years ago, her husband and her son ran 1-2 in the Daytona 500. Now she finds herself in Hut Strickland's pit, but her son's leading the race. Mixed emotions?
Yes, definitely mixed emotions. You know, I mean, it's our son out there, and then it's our own car driver, Hut Strickland. And, you know, if Hut can do it, more power to him. But then again, if Davey's got it, well, I guess I'm for him too.
Let me ask you again how you chose this pit to be in today.
Well, mostly because this pit is our deal, which pays the bills.
And the bills is what it's about in stock car racing. Judy's pulling them for them both, but she's in Hut's pit today.
Davey Allison told me earlier, he said nothing would make me happier than to win and have my dad's car right behind me. A little switch when we saw that Daytona 500. Bobby Allison's last Daytona 500 win.
Hey, fellas, look at that. Well, he was. We'll see Harry Gant and Rick Mast here now battling for the fourth position, but Richard Petty is beginning to close back up on those two front cars.
The 1 and 33 have been swapping position back here while the leaders get ever closer. Mast is back to fourth. Gant is in fifth. That keeps going back and forth. Now we're back with the front three. Here's Petty moving in. Save the tires a little. Now ready to make the charge.
Gosh, this is getting pretty much down to the wire for these guys. Look at that race for the lead there. That's Strickland working this out. There's a lot to winning races is winning races, and you just don't get that many chances. And until you've done it a few times, sometimes just not quite sure what to do when you get out the front.
3 laps to go this time by. With 3 to go, Petty has moved right back up to challenge the 2 leaders. Davey Allison driving the lead car. Bobby Allison's car with Hut Strickland aboard in second. Richard Petty in third, and now there's a little interval out there.
Yeah,
again.
they've spread out a little bit. Did Davey Allison say, hey, it's just time to go now? Mike Joy?
Let's find out, Ned. Richard Petty of the 3 is in the best shape on gas because he's been able to draft off people. But Robert Yates, how about it? Davey running all by himself. So many laps is he going to be close on gas?
Well, you know, it uses smacks with power there, but we worked on this fuel thing. We got this Thunderbird, you know, really good on fuel. We think we can make it. We're going the distance, or trying to.
They have rolled the dice.
And Strickland is rolling right up Michael to make another challenge. Petty coming with him. Front 3 to decide the 125. Down to 2 laps to go.
Strickland still running low. Davey Allison running just a little bit higher in the corner, Ned. Is that just to unbind the car a little bit, you think?
It could be, and maybe the car is just not handling perfect that it'll keep it down on the inside, but certainly it has been handling good enough to stay out front all the way. And there's trouble over in turns 1 and 2.
Strickland's waving, man.
3 and 4, rather.
Car number 20
Schrader.
and Dorsey Schrader.
Sammy Swindell in car number 20.
World of Outlaw sprint car champion, front end gone. This one's going to come to the line right now, battling. Here comes Petty down to the inside, lap car in front of him. No place to go. Davey Allison's coming for the win. Richard Petty drops on the inside. A charge to the line. Too close to call.
Yes, sir. The NASCAR cameras will have to decide that one.
Lap car in the middle as Petty looked like the Petty of old, challenging Strickland, using the lap car. Strickland trying to use the lap car to throw the block. It didn't work on the King. Last lap here being turned under caution. Allison the winner, and it's Petty by an inch for second place. In third, Hut Strickland back to meet the winner in a moment. Dramatic development in turn 3 as number 20 Swindell collects Dorsey Schrader to bring around this remarkable finish in the first 125-mile qualifier.
They race back to the line. Davey Allison in the lead. Hut Strickland running second, but look at Richard Petty. His experience paying off as he goes on the inside of Ted Musgrave. Hut Strickland on the outside. Petty barely beats him to the line.
So it's Davey Allison victorious. 53-year-old Richard Petty strutting his stuff in this first 125-mile rain-delayed qualifier. Hut Strickland in second. Cars are lined up for that second 125-miler. Rick Mast, fourth. There you see further back, 6th through 10th, Harry Gant, Michael Waltrip, Bill Elliott, Dale Jarrett, Jeff Bodine, and the final qualifiers, Jim Sauter, Jimmy Spencer, Greg Sachs, Alan Kowicki, and Phil Barkdahl. Now let's meet the winner, Davey Allison, standing by with Mike Joy.
Davey Allison, for the 13th time in 500 history, the pole winner wins this qualifying race. You're the 10th man to do it. Your dad did it in '81, and here you are. It looked easy. Tell me it wasn't.
Well, it wasn't easy. You know, I got a good start right at the start of the race and got out in front of Harry and Rick and all those guys, and we just stayed single file. The only one that really showed any muscle out there was Hut Strickland. And, I mean, I watched him come around those guys on the bottom of the racetrack and on top of the racetrack. He looked strong, but he was going to give me all I could handle there at the end. And, you know, it got kind of exciting there for a minute with all those cars spinning down there in turn 3, the 2 cars that crashed. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I was trying to watch what they were going to do. And I just wanted to beat them back to the line.
Okay. Davey Allison, winner of the first qualifying race. Let's go to Dave Despain.
Richard Petty, that close to Daytona victory lane once again. What are you feeling right now deep down inside?
You know, it feels pretty good. I guess we should have run third in the race, but we wound up running second because they had that accident, and I was able to accelerate back to the green flag. So, you know, all in all, it was good day. The car ran good. The car worked pretty good. You know, crew done good. I mean, all the boys done their job. So, you know, come Sunday, if we can run that good all day Sunday, then we'll be in a hunt pretty good.
Fans loved it. Congratulations. Let's go back to Ken Squire with the grid for race number 2.
The starting lineup for the second 125-mile qualifying race. On the pole in a Chevrolet at 195.6 miles per hour from California, Ernie Irvan. And alongside, driving for Junior Johnson this year, it's Sterling Marlin in his Ford. Row 2 is the 4-time Winston Cup champion, Dale Earnhardt, and his nemesis from a year ago for that title, Mark Martin. In row number 3, it's the 1989 Daytona 500 winner, Darrell Waltrip, and from Upland, California, Joe Ruttman. Row 4, twice a runner-up in the 500, Terry Labonte, and the 89 Winston Cup champion, Rusty Wallace. In row number 5, it's Dick Trickle and Kyle Petty. Row 6 harbors Morgan Shepherd and Chad Little. In row 7, the only rookie in the field, Bobby Hamilton and Dave Marcus. Row number 8 from Prospect, Kentucky, Rick Jeffrey and Ken Schrader's back there. Row 9 is Robbie Gordon, a new talent out of Los Angeles, California, and Jimmy Means of Huntsville, Alabama. Row 10, Rick Wilson of Bartow, Florida, and Chuck Bound, the defending Grand National champion of NASCAR. Row 11 is the 1980 winner of the 500, Buddy Baker, and Gary Ballou of Miami. Row 12, Phil Parsons out of Detroit, and Brett Bodine. Row 13 is Jeff Purvis in the Neil Bonnet car, and Bill Venturini of Chicago, Illinois. Row 14, the veteran J.D. McDuffie of Sanford, North Carolina, and Brad Teague from Tennessee. Finally, the 29th position from Bloomington, Minnesota, Blackie Wengren. Sterling Marlin has called this race the A-Main, and indeed it is. Earnhardt, Marlin, Martin, Waltrip, Labonte, Shepherd, Rusty Wallace, Ernie Irvan, all ready to roll here. Tough contenders matching each other as they come to the line to start the second 125-miler. On the break, Ernie Irvan on the point, down to the inside. Staying right with him, Sterling Marlin, that new number 22 car.
Well, in the Busch Clash last week, Dale Earnhardt went from 14th to 1st in a couple of laps, so from 3rd to 1st should be catch meet this afternoon. But as you've already said, this is a strong field.
Earnhardt in the back straightaway.
Nevertheless,
stacks them 3 wide and brings Waltrip right with him up into second. Replay of the Busch Clash. We'll be back with more from Daytona following these messages. Now to Bob Schieffer in New York with a CBS News Gulf War update. Top 5 coming by: Earnhardt, Irvan, Petty, Wallace, Ruttman. Joe Ruttman with his new ride, of which he's ecstatic, looking very strong out here now.
That's the Bob Rahilly Butch Mock organization. Had a tough year, that team in with Rick Wilson behind the wheel last year. So sort of regrouped during the winter and hired Ruttman back. He had driven for that team once before, several years ago. And Ruttman's certainly anxious to go and trying to prove that their decision in putting him in the car was the right one.
There's Rick Wilson out of the bubble in the Stavola brothers car. In 15th spot. And about to feel some heat from Chuck Bound in car number 72 trying to make the field. The defending Grand National champion of NASCAR. That series that's worth some $4.5 million and has really grown over the last several years, Ned.
Yes, it has. And Chuck Bound has helped that series to grow and certainly proving here today. There's Terry Labonte in the blue car, number 94, and Chuck is proving that he can run with the best of them in the Winston Cup Series.
And the Billy Hagan car seems to be having a problem, that 94. I'm sure that's not where they want that machine right now.
Well, during the winter testing here at Daytona, Terry Labonte had the fastest recorded speed.
Well, he did a pretty good speed in qualifying on Saturday. Do you think that that'll probably get him last Saturday? That'll probably get him in the race.
Yeah, he ran over 193 miles an hour. I think anyone over the 193 bracket will certainly get in the Daytona 500 should they not get in the top 15.
A guy who I must say I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen much of him this afternoon, and probably not likely to, is number 66, Dick Trickle. I thought he'd go better.
Yeah, last year in this 125-mile qualifying race, he charged to the front in the race, but
now he's not doing anything, and his qualifying speed certainly won't get him in the race.
Could be a provisional starter for the Cale Yarborough team. Trickle out of Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, as Dale Earnhardt at number 3 stays in front. And the question always is he showing you all the cards he has? He's out in front. He's never won the 500, and he's really focused on that. There you see Trickle at 66.
I'm told that his qualifying speed, 192 and change, just might get him in.
I think he'll be on the bubble. There's Dave Marcus. Dave Marcus in car number 71 trying to make a pass on him.
18th position back there. Here's Chris Economaki.
Well, Dick Trickle is right behind Robbie Gordon, the famous off-road youngster who has switched to oval track racing for the Factory Ford team. He's not in the race yet, but he is ahead of veteran Dick Trickle and old-timer Dave Marcus.
He's coming right along, this kid Gordon. You're going to hear a lot about him in time to come. Good off-road racer. I think the Ford folks have a lot of hope for him in the future. Meanwhile,
that's one of Junie Dunleavy's cars, of course, a man who's been around NASCAR racing and who I drove for at Michigan many years ago.
Many years ago, right.
More years ago than any of us will remember.
Had those skinny little tires.
Yeah.
No power steering.
I was a skinny little guy.
Chevrolet in first. Chevy in second. Pontiac third and fourth. Oldsmobile in fifth in that front 5. And there you see them. With Earnhardt, Irvin, Petty, Wallace, and Ruttman continuing to be the quintet up in front. Kyle Petty's number 42. Felix Zavada's car looking very good at this time.
No, you're wondering if Earnhardt is showing his hand totally right now. I'm not sure that Ernie Irvin in car number 4 and Kyle Petty in 42 are showing their hand either. I think they're content to sit there and draft for a while, conserve that fuel, and then the last 10 laps try to show what they have.
Darrell Waltrip, after that rush of blood to the head when he went around side those guys on turn 3 and 4, is definitely losing ground on that leading bunch now. And in fact, he's being pulled in by Sterling Marlin in the 22 car.
Waltrip back in 6th place now.
A little separation here. Waltrip is slowing down in 6th position. Coming off the pace a bit. Car number 17.
Well, I don't think that he has backed off the gas to slow down. I don't think the car is handling exactly the way that he wants to. We'll watch him as he goes into the turn. Well, we're going to. There he is. He's able to keep the car low on the racetrack, which is more of a sign, David, of the car maybe being a little loose, if anything, because if it was pushing, it'd want to ride up the banks in the turn.
Yeah. Hard to tell, too, how his straight line speed, because with the restrictor plates on here at Daytona and Talladega, it's a fine line to get that engine just working right.
But he is falling back into the clutches, no question of that, of Sterling Marlin in 7th position. There's the 72, that's Bound, and we're told right now that Chuck Bound is on the bubble. He's been here before to try to qualify for the 500. Here's Dave Despain. Got trouble in turn number 4. Car slamming into the wall.
Brett Bodine.
It looks like Brett Bodine. Brett Bodine's car out of control up in turn number 4.
Well, he hit that inside wall very hard, Ken. That's the Kenny Bernstein entry. And you can see the wet grass that he slid back across. But he had already made the impact on the inside. Now they'll race back to the start-finish line. We see Earnhardt going into turn 3. Of course, the spotters and the NASCAR officials have told them where the trouble is, and there is running room on the outside of them, of Brett Bodine's car. But now they're slowing down. They will not race back to the flag. They're just going to slow down here. And
somebody's trying to race to the flag.
Yeah, that's the car trying to get a lap back, isn't it?
Indeed it is. Phil Parsons getting a lap back as they come to the line. Brett Bodine's Buick lies destroyed just at the top of the tri-oval.
Here's how it happened. The yellow car, Bobby Hamilton, just barely touches Brett Bodine, sends him out of control into the outside retaining wall, and then he hits hard on the inside retaining wall and then slams back out towards the racetrack.
There we see him coming off the wall. It looked at one stage as if he might stay stuck to that wall. The rear of the car touched, then the front, but it was not to be. Bounced off, then slides across this asphalt, losing speed, but still, as you say, hit that wall very, very hard. Luckily for him, that wall's about 100 feet further back from the track than it used to be.
Scrubbed off some speed on the outside wall. He had moved from 24th up to 11th position. Let's look again at regular speed at what happened to Brett Bodine in the Kenny Bernstein number 26. What's it like to tag a wall at this speed?
Well, I'll tell you, it hurts, Ken. He had no control of the car. The steering was already out after he hit the first wall on the outside, and then his brakes would have been gone too. He almost slid back into the traffic of the oncoming cars.
Jeff Bodine, his brother, coming around the car. He was on the headset apparently because he was giving a signal okay as he came out there. We'll be back with more from Daytona following at Daytona, still attempting to extricate Brett Bodine from his crashed car in this 125-mile qualifying race, using the jaws of life here to cut right through those roll bars. Look again at what happened.
He was already out of control. He and the yellow car had already touched Brett Bodine. It looked like, as David said, he might stay on the outside wall, but that was not to be. David, he's got to be pressing on those brakes.
Well, I tell you, he's going to have cramp in his right calf muscle for about a month as he tries to snap that brake pedal off, but to no avail as he slams into that wall after careening across that asphalt, bounces back onto the grass verge, and as you said earlier, very nearly back into the traffic.
Fourth appearance, attempting to qualify for the 500 for Brett Bodine. And here he comes out. They have a neck brace already on, and he's going to walk away from this one. Albeit a little wobbly, he's up and headed for the field hospital for a checkout. There's his brother, Jeff Bodine, with Brett Bodine, getting away from what looked to be a nasty one here. Seems to be all right.
A precautionary measure with the neck brace. I'll bet we'll see him in the Daytona 500.
Waving to the crowd as he climbs into the ambulance, Brett Bodine. The top 15, if they were to stop the race right now, be qualifiers for the 500. There you see Wallace back in 5th, and Baker is in 10th. And 15th, the man on the bubble, Gary Ballou. Ready to take green. As they come to the line, they will have completed 30, 20 to go, 50 miles to decide the second 125-mile qualifier after a serious yellow flag thrown out for a crash by Brett Bodine. Field is away under green, and there's a question on whether or not Earnhardt can make it to the finish.
Well, we heard a rumor that he might be concerned about his fuel mileage, but those caution laps could have helped him some because he wasn't using nearly as much fuel during that time, so we'll just have to see. Of course, it's not time yet for him to run out. It would be near the end of the race if he did.
We see Ernie Irvin as they go down the backstretch. The sun getting very, very low and weak now. Night is definitely moving in here on Daytona as Mark Martin, number 6, goes down the inside of Kenny Schrader. Gives you an idea of how close these guys race together. Sterling Marlin on the outside, the number 22 car. Joe Ruttman down on the bottom. Sun.
Look how much that car moving around. They get together.
A lot of smoke there. Sterling Marlin hit the outside wall and Joe Ruttman.
That battle is for 6. Ruttman and Marlin squabbling. Just in front of them, you see Waltrip in 5th, Wallace is 4th, Kyle Petty 3rd, Ernie Irvin in 2nd, and up front Earnhardt.
Ruttman and Marlin side by side there, holding all these guys that we're back with Mark Martin there, holding all those guys back. Meanwhile, the front group are streaking away from them.
Schrader looks like he's electing to go with Marlin on the outside. Here comes Martin up through in the number 6 car.
There's Buddy Baker down on the inside in car number 8.
Lifting off there, Mark Martin's car. You can just hear him lifting a little bit. Is that push that you were talking about earlier on?
Yeah, I think so. He had to lift just a little bit coming off of that turn to get it to turn.
Buddy Baker down on the inside in car number 88. Baker going for 9th.
Bobby Hamilton, the 68 car there, not knowing which one of those cars to pick up with. Obviously should have gone with Buddy Baker.
Yep. Baker made the pass on Mark Martin. We support our troops. Our number 88, the Marine car, Buddy Baker.
Buddy Baker making good ground there on Ken Schrader. Ken Schrader so strong last year in the 125 mile and qualifying. A disappointing 500, but he wants to get in this year's.
And there's trouble on pit road. Dave Marcus has come into the pits and crashed into the, looks like maybe to the inside retaining wall.
You could hear a tire explode on car number 71.
He has the Coast Guard car. One of the left side tires blew as he came into the pits.
No caution on the track. This is on pit road. 1976 winner of a 125-mile qualifier. Dave Marcus will continue to work on that car as if they think they might get it back out again. Meanwhile, here you see the 75 car down at the bottom and wheeling around the outside. Sterling Marlin is getting himself 6th position. Joe Ruttman falling back into the clutches of Mark Martin. And he's getting all good. And it looks like he got tagged by the Schrader car there as they came through the corner.
Came awfully close. Bobby Hamilton, the rookie, in the Oldsmobile, the bright car number 68 we see there, doing a good job of hanging with those cars. He had dropped back and was in there with Brett Bodine before the caution came out. Now hanging with those leaders.
Joe Ruttman putting on a good display too, with a new sponsor and a new team, and Ruttman, a guy that's been up and down a bit in NASCAR racing, obviously trying to make a good effort in today's race, but of course the all-important one is the 500 on Sunday.
See him come out of the sun there, Mark Martin.
It's a little bit of a lift, you see. He's even getting a bit of push now in the tri-oval. Let's watch him as he goes into turn 1 and 2. See how dark it's getting there. Oh, it definitely lifted there, didn't he, Ned?
Yes, he did. He lifted off the...
Settle the car down.
Yep.
More from Daytona after these messages and a word from your local station. Daytona for CBS coverage of the twin 125-mile qualifying races. Here's the look from Earnhardt. Out front, clear sailing. Behind, he has to cope with the Chevrolet of Ernie Irvan. A thought from Chris Economaki.
Well, the second-place driver, Ernie Irvan, and the third-place driver, Kyle Petty, are great friends. And last night, they hosted a radio show, and all they talked about was how Dale Earnhardt could be beaten. And now they're both in a position to possibly pass him. The fact that they are friends, they may get to working together. But it was really under their skin that everybody was saying last night that Earnhardt is unbeatable. And Irvan in second and Petty in third said, no, he's not.
10 laps to go, this time by. Here's Mike Joy.
Ken, a lot of folks in the grandstand and along pit road have these little handheld scanners, and a lot of them, including CBS, have been listening to Dale Earnhardt. So earlier when he said, geez, I don't know if we can make it on gas, everybody started running up and down pit road, including us. I think he said that just to see who's listening. Engine builder Ed Lanier says they are going for it all the way.
Throwing him a dummy, a little bit of a ploy.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a decoy that he sent out there.
He is. He's smiling about it. Waldrop back in fifth. Sterling Marlin stays 6th, and Buddy Baker is in 7th.
Now, Ken, according to my unofficial stopwatch here, they're running about 3 to 4 tenths of a second faster than the first 125-mile race.
Which is another telling tale of Dale Earnhardt's prowess, of course.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Davey Allison and his crew have their stopwatches on him. They know how fast they were running each lap, and now they're clocking Dale Earnhardt to see what they'll have to do on Sunday in the Daytona 500.
The Richard Childress, number 3, stays up in front. Earnhardt aboard. Then the Morgan McClure, number 4, in second. And Felix Sabetis is number 42, showing its colors in a very strong run in the second 125-mile qualifier.
Ernie Irvan hanging on very, very well here. And, of course, he may yet make a late charge.
Now, you know, I talked about the difference in the speeds. Now, it is a little cooler. Sun is a little farther down. The track should be a little faster now, so maybe that could be one reason that Earnhardt's running a little faster.
Well, I'm sure the air is a lot cooler, too, which obviously will just crank out just that little bit more horsepower.
Earnhardt has them covered. The question is, does anyone have anything out there with which they can fold his hand?
Nice Thursday evening drive for Dale Earnhardt so far.
Question is, are we seeing everything that Earnhardt has, or is he saving just a bit for Davey Allison on Sunday in the Great American Race?
Well, it's my opinion that he's saving just a bit.
Really? He didn't save much of the first 2 laps. Here comes Ernie Urban ready to challenge. It's Chevy against Chevy. Wide ovaling just a bit. Earnhardt to contain any effort is going to be made off turn 2, which isn't a bad place to pass.
No, as a matter of fact, now with the restrictor plates, you just about have to make your move, especially if you're going to do it on the last lap, coming off of turn 2 and get the momentum going into turn 3. You can't wait like the old days coming off of turn 4 and make the slingshot right.
Turn 4's history for slingshots now. Yeah. That's a dead sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't have that horsepower now.
I think that Dale Earnhardt must be sandbagging to a certain extent, because the way he went from his second row position back to the front and the way he did it last week in the Busch Clash, I mean, he gets in the front and he just rides there. So, you know, we don't know how much he's giving him.
The 42 backs up a little. It's a 2-car battle right now. A thought from Dave Despain.
Junie Dunleavy first came to Daytona in 1950 and says he can't remember having missed one since. Today he's got problems. He's talking to his crew right now, but this is the Robbie Gordon car. And Junie, what's the problem with that car?
Well, he got tangled up with the 72 car a few minutes ago, and he's got a slight vibration. So he's just kind of taking it easy, and we're going to see if we can finish it.
Can you get that car in the 500?
We've got a pretty good speed for qualifying, so we hope so.
There's a real veteran, 41 years here at Daytona. Remember, last year he was here with Ernie Irvan. They had no sponsorship. That deal fell apart, and now he's back with Robbie Gordon, and Ernie is on Dale Earnhardt's tail.
Meanwhile, David, we saw Kyle Petty take a very deep breath, charge back up under Ernie Irvan, and now fall back about 5 car lengths.
They might have had to back off the gas there just a little bit, Ken, and when you do with these restrictor plate engines, you lose a lot of momentum and a lot of ground.
And of course, you have absolutely no way of making it back up. I mean, every inch you've got to chisel to get it back.
There's the 6-spot man. That is Sterling Marlin in the 22, and right behind him, Joe Ruttman in the 75 is taken over in 7th, and Buddy Baker drops back 1 position into 8th. Battle for 6. Marlin, Ruttman, Baker. Mike Joy.
Ken, Dale Earnhardt's got to be having a good time. You've talked about the lights coming on here at Daytona. He just called in to tell his crew it's the first time he's ever run a night race here.
I was just going to say, look at those lights up in the grandstand. Although the sun is still shining on the back straight.
5 laps remaining. 5 to go, and the shadow's getting very long here at Daytona.
Yeah, it's getting pretty dark on the front side of the racetrack. On the back side, where the sun can still peek over the grandstands, it's pretty bright back there.
Chad Little's number 19 on the bubble, and 72 bound, trying to make it into the field.
There's a possibility that they may throw a caution and call this race, but there is only 4 laps to go, so probably they'll just hang in there now.
Earnhardt stays up in front. Irvan 2nd, Kyle Petty 3rd, Rusty Wallace 4th.
And in the 5th place is Darrell Waltrip. Sterling Marlin is 6th. Joe Ruttman 7th. Buddy Baker 8th. Mark Martin 9th. And Bobby Hamilton, the rookie, up in 10th place.
Kenny Schrader, the Rick Hendrick car, is 11th, which is rather further back than I thought we'd see him. And Rick Wilson in the 8 car is 12th.
And Robbie Gordon now is out in the top 15. Chad Little being shown on the bubble in 15th position.
But Junie Dunleavy reckons they've got enough qualifying speed to put them in the race. Well, we'll just have to see how it all works out.
A couple of drivers from the Northwest. There you see Chad Little trying to hold off the car number 72 as they come back to the line. Chuck Bound up in front. Here's the struggle. It is Dale Earnhardt in front, and the driver he has helped a great deal, Ernie Irvan, to get himself a good ride, keep him going. In fact, at one time, Earnhardt even set Ernie Irvan up with a car to bring down here to Daytona and run in the Grand National race.
Yeah, he became friends with Ernie when Ernie came from the West Coast and saw that he had a tremendous amount of potential. So he knew how much of a struggle it was himself, Dale Earnhardt did, in trying to get up through the ranks. So he has helped guys like Ernie Irvan.
2 laps to go. Final 2. And again, notice Kyle Petty closing in another time. The Pontiac of Petty moving into those 2 Chevrolets. It's a battle between 3 cars. Earnhardt attempting to win a 125-mile qualifier for the 4th time. For Ernie Irvan, Irvin or this man, Kyle Petty, it would be their first trip to victory lane in a 125-miler.
Now the question is, can they make it on fuel? They ran a number of laps under caution, which should have let them conserve enough fuel to make it all the way.
Down they come out of 4.
And these three have really put some tremendous daylight between themselves and Rusty Wallace, Darrell Waltrip, and Sterling Marlin. They've dropped off the pace, sadly, towards the end. In fact, about the only daylight here is it's nearly pitch dark as we go into turn 1 for the last time.
Final lap is underway. Let's see if Ernie Irvin has anything more. Earnhardt.
Sparks there coming out of Earnhardt's car. Very low at this late stage in the race. Obviously no problem with his tires going off.
Kyle Petty moves in, closes up, picks up a draft with number 4 and tries to close on number 3.
Yeah, you wonder, is Earnhardt running out of gas? He pulled to the inside to sort of block them, but maybe that was just a move to keep them from trying to draft by on the inside.
Out of turn number 4, Kyle Petty looks outside. Here they come from Earnhardt's vantage as they come to the line, switching back and forth. It is Petty, but it's Earnhardt to the line first. Ernie Irvin in second. Kyle Petty in third in the second 125-mile qualifier. And we'll meet the winner, Dale Earnhardt, in victory lane after these messages. Daytona ends gloriously for Dale Earnhardt. Ernie Irvin in second, Kyle Petty third, Rusty Wallace fourth, and Darrell Waltrip in fifth. Taking a look just behind them, it was Sterling Marlin sixth, Joe Ruttman seventh, Buddy Baker eighth, Mark Martin ninth, Bobby Hamilton 10th. And rounding out the top 15, Jeff Purvis, Ken Schrader, Rick Wilson, Dick Trickle, and Chad Little make it into the Daytona 500. Let's go to Dave Despain standing by with the winner in the second 125-mile qualifier.
Familiar family portrait, same one we saw Sunday in the Busch Clash. Now, you told us then we hadn't seen your best stuff after you tore them up in the Clash. Have we seen your best stuff now?
Well, this is our better car, hopefully. You know, it's good enough to win the 500. That's a long race. Today was just a qualifier, and, you know, we did a good job, the crew and the guys, and, you know, the good Lord give us a safe day, and, you know, we just come on home. I was worried about getting it in as far as the weather, and then, you know, it changed the track a bit. The car was a little tighter than what I thought it'd be, but we was good.
It looked easy. Didn't look like Ernie had much for you there at the end. Were you concerned at all?
Well, him and Kyle hooked up that last lap and drafted up to me down the backstretch. Ernie bumped me a little going in through there, sort of wiggled me, but we got through there okay.
Congratulations to you, Dale Earnhardt.
Thank you. I'd like to say hi to all the guys over in the Persian Gulf and wish them, you know, safe trip home.
Now let's go to Mike Joy with Ernie Irvin.
Ernie Irvin will start the 500 from the front row, but today's race. What do you think? You had the best view in the house. Have we seen all Dale Earnhardt's got?
Well, yeah, I think that's all he's got. You know, he's like us. He wasn't handling, we weren't handling, so, you know, it slowed our speeds down about a half a second, so it enabled a lot of other cars to run with us. But I think come the 500, we're both going to get our cars handled a little better, and I think we're both going to be awful tough to beat.
So we haven't seen all Ernie Irvin's got.
Well, you know, it was all we had for the day. You know, with some chassis adjustment and things like that, I think we got a lot more left in the car. And, you know, if we can come back and do that, this Kodak Film, Delco Remy, Chevrolet, AC spark plug cars and run awful good.
All right, that's everybody. Let's go back to Ken Squire.
Coming up, a live Daytona 500 update and a look at the starting grid for the Great American Race.